Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name's Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain. So, a few days ago, the Democrats came out with a brand new EV tax plan that essentially changed everything that we saw during Joe Biden's announcement with Ford, GM, Stellantis. If you don't remember that event, it's the one where they snubbed Tesla. Yeah, so we're going to talk about this new tax plan that the Democrats are going to try to get past Congress and the Senate and everything. And we're going to see what this actually means. But more importantly, I want to unpack a little bit of how we might have gotten here with this new revised plan and why they might have done it. Okay, so that's going to be the impetus of this video, is to really talk about where we were and how we got to where we are, and of course what this means on the bigger scheme for Tesla. And spoiler alert, I don't think any of this is going to affect them one way or another. Okay, if anything, it can only benefit Tesla. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this. But first, you know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, and let's go ahead and get into it. If you remember, about a month ago, early August, the Biden administration had this big EV event. And for that event, they invited Ford, they invited GM, they invited Stellantis, which, mind you, isn't a U.S. company at this point. Stellantis is a conglomerate of automakers that is based out of the Netherlands. Okay, they essentially bought Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and they fell within this umbrella, including other companies such as Fiat. Okay, so that's what Stellantis is. So Joe Biden invited the big three, if you will, and the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union. Okay, so this was what this meeting was about, and it was all about this new path and vision for the future and moving towards an EV world. However, as we all recall, maybe you don't remember, but Tesla was completely snubbed from this event. They weren't invited and they weren't part of it at all. Elon Musk even tweeted about this, which we'll see here shortly. Now, I just want to go back and just kind of give a little refresher about what happened, what we saw, before we get into what I really want to talk about. So let's look at some articles that came about this whole event first. So here we can see an article from CNN regarding Tesla, and this was from August 5th. And this is CNN saying Tesla just got snubbed by Biden's electric vehicle summit. Okay, and if you want to read this article, this was again from a while ago. You can see what I just mentioned: GM, Ford, and Stellantis. They were all the ones invited, and of course the UAW, the United Auto Workers, were invited as well. The rumor or the things that were said without being said was that the whole reason that Tesla wasn't invited is because they don't use union workers at their factories. Okay, Tesla directly employs all of their workers, all their employees, so they work for Tesla. And this has a whole range of benefits. It means that they get stock option plans. It means they get paid a higher wage, right? These things matter. And as an employee, it means that you actually have stake and you care about what you're doing versus you feeling that you work for the union and the union happens to farm you out to these other companies, okay? That's how unions work. Now, I know this might sound like I'm anti-union, but just to give a little history, I used to work for union. I've actually worked for two separate unions, and they were okay. If I had my choice, I would rather not work for a union. I prefer to work directly for a company. To me, the benefits were better. I was treated better, and just quality of life seemed to be better. However, unions are the only reason why companies today are treat employees as good as they do. It's because of unions. Had unions not come about and were created to protect employees and workers, we would not have the standard and quality of work life that we have today. So I'm not anti-union. I just think that unions may be a little bit past their prime. Okay, I think at this point, the mission of the unions has been accomplished, and now we should really allow companies to do what they're doing. And what happens is right now with companies, CEOs and board members, they don't look at their employees as employees. They look at their employees as if they're their customers. So in other words, if they treat their customers right, aka the employees, then the employees are going to do the same thing for the actual customers. Okay, working for a very large Silicon Valley company, this is a constant message preached to us. Okay, our CEO always talks about how we are his customers and we are the ones that he has to satisfy first. Okay, and from there, it trickles on down. right? I can't even name a single employee at my company that isn't extremely passionate about our customers. Okay, so this is what unions allowed to create. Okay, their mission has been accomplished. However, now with this whole EV tax credit, it seems that there's a burden to be placed on companies who do not want to use unionized workers. And to me, this is very un-American, very anti-capitalism, and just very anti-employee, which the whole point of unions was to support the employees. So to me, there's a contradiction here. Okay, anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at a quick CNBC video clip with Andrew Ross Sorkin, where he interviewed the Secretary of Transportation and see what he had to say about whenever Biden initially snubbed Tesla. And then from there, we'll get into what's actually happening right now.
Mr. Secretary, there's one car manufacturer that seems conspicuously absent from this event today, and that is Tesla. And I'm curious why.
I'm not sure, but what I know is that you're seeing so many leaders in industry. You got newer companies, and you've got the legacy companies that are both saying that we've got to move in this direction. The industry structure obviously is complex, and part of what's exciting is to see some of the oldest, most traditional names in U.S. auto manufacturing and some of the newest companies on the scene all acting in terms of the very core of their business to go electric.
But I don't know if did you see Elon Musk's tweet? He said, we have it on the screen here. He said, yeah, it seems odd that Tesla wasn't invited.
No, I haven't seen that. But look, we're excited about all of the momentum for making sure that Americans can drive electric vehicles going into the future. And by the way, we're moving toward a future where this is all across the market. I don't want there to be a perception that this is just for a kind of luxury thing.
You know, this is the Secretary of Transportation of the United States. And Biden, during this time, this was early August, was holding the EV event, the first essentially EV event to ever have been had by anyone at the White House. And the Secretary of Transportation saying that he has no idea why Tesla wasn't invited. Okay, let's just call BS on this. Anyways, and just, I know I already talked about this in a previous video. You can find that video here if you want to see what it was all about. But, he mentioned that the other manufacturers, old and new, are all leaders in this space. No, they're not. Like, it's fine to say that Ford, GM, Stellantis, NIO, Xpeng, you can say, Rivian, Lucid Motors, whatever you want to say. You can say that they're all, entering and, coming into the market, and that they're going to be real challengers and companies. But there's one leader right now, and there's not even a question about this, and that's Tesla. Tesla is the leader by a mile, by 100 miles. Okay, so I'm fine with saying that there's these other companies and that they're getting into the EV space. I want that to happen. We need that for the world. We need that for renewable energy, and we need that for electric vehicles in general. Tesla won't be able to make every single car in the world. Like, that's not a pragmatic approach or a pragmatic way of thinking. So we do need these other companies to go ahead and get on board this EV train. But let's not, cloud things. Tesla is the leader. And Tesla was not invited, and Tesla was not invited because they do not hire union workers, because they choose to pay and give better benefits than unions would. That's the Tesla approach. Not saying that every company has to do that. I'm not saying union workers are, making a wrong decision. Everyone has to find their own path. But what I am saying is don't hinder those who choose to go another route. That's all I'm saying. Free country, let people make their own decisions. Okay, so that was the background I wanted to set up for what we're going to look at now. And so let's go ahead and take a look at this article from CNN with regards to the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, in relation to the White House and Joe Biden. Let's have a look. Here within CNN Business News, we see the headline, Biden wants an aggressive transition to electric vehicles. A surprising ally is pumping the brakes. So let's see who that is. And spoiler alert, you can see right here, United Auto Workers. If I scroll down, the gist of the article can really be summed up in this one quote right here. Our concerns were what that impact would be for our membership. what those products would actually look like and potential volumes around those products. UAW President Ray Curry told CNN in August, adding his union wanted assurances from the administration that EVs coming from the Detroit automaker would be built by union workers. Let me read that part to you again. He wanted assurances. He wanted a guarantee from the administration. He wanted a guarantee from the White House that EVs coming from Detroit, that vehicles, electric vehicles made out of Detroit, meaning Ford, GM, Stellantis, that they would be built by union workers. In what world do we live in within our country, within the United States, where we actually think that a government entity can tell a private business who to employ? Okay, if that's not corrupt, I don't know what is. Okay, this, and the audacity for the president of the union to even hint at saying this to anybody. I mean, this just spells everything that we as a society hate about politics. No matter what type of government you're into or you like, whether you're left, right, center, or in the moon, it doesn't matter. Nobody likes the idea of having lobbyists in government trying to sway opinion that isn't the opinion of the masses. And the truth is, the majority of people do not believe that government should be picking winners and losers. Okay, we should let the market do its thing. We should let people work where they want to work, and we shouldn't be choosing these things. Okay, the UAW and the president should not be lobbying to get a guarantee from the White House that vehicles made in Detroit, that EV vehicles made, will be done by the union workers. Okay, so this came out about a month after the White House press briefing with, again, Ford, GM, Stellantis, and the UAW, right? The United Auto Workers Union. This came about a month after that, post the Tesla snub. Okay, so this is kind of hilarious because the whole reason they said Tesla wasn't invited was because they didn't have union workers. And yet, if I scroll back up here, a surprising ally is pumping the brakes. So the union workers, right, the union itself is saying, hold on, before we get ahead of ourselves, this is a whole new set of skill sets that our union workers don't have, right? This is a whole new knowledge base. Like, we're going to have new training, right? This is going a whole different world. And on top of that, to even get close to being competitive to Tesla, that means that things are going to be more automated. It means there's going to be more robots. There's going to be fewer pieces. We're going to have gigapresses, right? To even compete with Tesla, that's the world you have to go towards, okay? Yet, someone like the UAW is thinking more so along the lines, well, how many people can we have working? I don't care if it means that it's redundant or we can make things more efficient. Efficiency doesn't help a union. Efficiency hinders a union, because if I can take a rear wheel casting, something that used to take, 6 or 7 people in an assembly line to put together, right? Maybe a robot does all the welding, but then someone back has to do QA on it. Somebody has to put a seal over the rivets or the weldings, right? There's a lot of stuff that has to go into that. If I could get rid of all of that with 1 gigapress, that means that I just lost 6 or 7 jobs for my union. So efficiency doesn't help a union. And ironically, efficiency and cost savings is the only way anyone's going to be able to survive in the EV world, especially if you're competing against Tesla. So there's a lot of irony here. But so what does this really mean? Okay, so what happened after this article came out, right? This came out September 8th, you can see here. But this quote came out from around the end of August. If I come back down here, you can see here in August is whenever this was quoted. Now what we see is that there's a new EV tax bill advantage that is being proposed by Democrats in the White House. So let's take a look at what it was and what we're going to, and again, see where some of this lobbyists and some of this corruption is coming for and on behalf of unions. Let's take a look at that now. The original tax plan that was being proposed whenever Joe Biden made his initial briefing back in early August was for $7,500 for anyone who just buys an electric vehicle, just surface level, right? That's where we're starting. $7,500. tax credit if you buy an electric vehicle. And then they would offer an additional $2,500 for any electric vehicle made in the United States. Keep in mind, currently, the majority of EVs aren't made in the United States. The only real ones that are come from Tesla, right? You might be thinking the Ford Mach-E, but that's actually made in Mexico. So the Ford Lightning's coming, but that's still about a year away. And apparently that's going to be made in Dearborn. So, we'll see what happens there. But it was $7,500 baseline and then $2,500 for made in the U.S. Okay, that makes sense, right? It makes sense to put tax money towards American jobs, right? American tax money towards American jobs. Okay, that adds up. And then there's another $2,500 incentive if the vehicles are made with union workers. Okay, so initially, I hated this. Honestly, I hate this whole tax credit. I think it's a little too high, to be honest. I think it slows down innovation is what my problem is. I think there's a lot to be said for companies having to struggle to figure out how to make things more cost effective, how to become more efficient, where do I save money, how do I reduce weight, how do I re-engineer the way we work and the way we do business so that we can survive in the EV world. Okay, with electric vehicles, it's about efficiency, aerodynamics, and it's about weight. Okay, you want to have a low coefficient of drag. You want to have low weight. Okay, every single extra gram you have means you lose mileage. All right, but in order to do this, it's a whole different way of thinking. My problem with the tax credit isn't, obviously as a Tesla investor, I want the tax credit because that means more people go out and buy Teslas, right? Like that's a no-brainer. But thinking past a given quarter or 2 quarters or even a year, if we really want electric vehicles to persist and dominate in the market, and it's going to happen one way or another, but we want to accelerate it, then we need these companies to have to go through the tough task, go into the incubator, figure out how to reinvent themselves and iterate upon that so that they can come out into the new world, into the EV market. But with this tax incentive, I think it slows that down. It gives them a crutch. It gives them a reason to add a premium on the vehicles because they can essentially collect with the handout from the government. So that's where I'm kind of conflicted, right? As an investor, hey, I love it. But as a thinker, as an engineer, I think it does inhibit and slow down innovation. I think it's inevitable. Okay, companies, people, they're greedy, and they're gonna think about the bottom line, how they can get the most money in their pockets. So, anyways, the initial plan was $7,500 for just an EV, $2,500 for Made in America, $2,500 for union labor, and it was what it was. I have no say in it. And I thought it was decent enough, right? Tesla was obviously going to be the biggest beneficiary of this tax plan, as nobody else has enough batteries, nobody else has the volume, and nobody else has the know-how to actually be profitable with these tax credits, right? All the big car companies would simply just be trying to survive and using these tax plans to survive until they can figure out how to make a profitable electric vehicle. However, after this supposed friction or halt that the UAW, United Auto Workers Union, came out with, all of a sudden it seems the Democrats have come out with a new tax proposal, electric vehicle tax proposal, just out of nowhere. We just had this idea. Hey, here's an idea. Why don't we tweak it a little bit? Why not? So what did that tweak look like? Well, first, they still have that $7,500 base. Okay, so that didn't go anywhere. So the $7,500 baseline is in place for any electric vehicle. Okay, but then what they added was an additional $4,500 credit for any vehicle made by union workers. Hey, look at that. Isn't it weird how that just all of a sudden happened? The UAW, who's one of the biggest supporters for donations within elections, they weren't happy after, they thought a little bit about the press conference Joe Biden had with them. They weren't happy about the way that was going. They thought, well, this could actually hurt us in the big scheme of things. And so they wanted some guarantees, and, they voiced and expressed their conservatism. Let's use that word. That's a nice way of saying it, with what this could mean for them. And so on the back of that, all of a sudden, out of the blue, we have this new tax plan that adds an additional $2,000 to the already existing $2,500 for union workers. Okay, so this is just interesting, and it's almost as if they were also trying to take a jab at Tesla. And the reason I say that is because initially, there's a $2,500 tax credit for vehicles made in America. And that I was absolutely for, mainly because those are tax dollars paid by Americans. And to me, that encourages businesses to build in the United States, which gives Americans jobs. But now that's gone, and instead, it's $7,500 base as it was before, but $4,500 for union workers. So what they're saying is, let me take this taxpayer money, let me give it only to union workers, and all of those other workers who work at car manufacturing plants but aren't part of a union, well, you guys can screw off because you're not part of a union. So we're not going to do anything to benefit the company you work for. So to me, this was almost a shot at Tesla and a extra crutch for the big three, right? And ironically enough, the big three, they went ahead and have Stellantis in there, a company based out of the Netherlands. So, there's just so much wrong with this, from my opinion. Okay, so along with this, and keep in mind, none of this is actually law. These are still proposals being made. Nothing's gone through, right? It's a very divided country right now. So, it's literally 50-50. So, something's going to have to give. And obviously, Republicans are strongly against this. Some Democrats are strongly against this. Others are very for it, right? It's just a matter of how it gets constructed. At the end of the day, I have no problem with the tax credit as long as it's done in a fair way, okay? And I also, as long as it's done in a logical way, right? I don't think it makes sense to put a year span on this. I think there should be a number on it, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, if you say this is going to be good for 10 years, which is the way this is rolled out, it's based on the time span. Well, how do we actually budget for this as a country, right? Like, this would, if it was me in my household and I was working on my spreadsheet, like, this would drive me insane. Like, okay, you can't just tell me, you can spend as much as you want for the next 10 years, which is pretty much what they're doing. They're giving a blank check. So if Tesla can make $10 million over the next, or 10 million vehicles over the next 10 years, they will get that $7,500 for every single one of those vehicles. If they can do 20 million, same thing, right? So there needs to be a way to really structure that makes more sense. Anyways, so what we can see here is that they also want to bar anyone who buys an electric vehicle for people making more than $100,000 or for vehicles that cost more than $40,000 originally. Okay, so that was the original modification to the $7,500 with the $2,500 for Made in America and $2,500 for union workers. All right. After that came out, there's a modification saying, hey, if you make more than $100,000 a year, and if the vehicle costs more than $40,000, then you can't get any of the tax credit. Which, to me, I was thinking, the logical side of me is like, that makes sense. If you're making over $100,000 and you're out to buy a $40,000 car, you probably don't need this tax credit. Like, if we're just being pragmatic here. However, if you really start to peel back the layers, you realize, well, how many companies can make a EV for less than $40,000? It's pretty much only Tesla. $100,000 within a household. I mean, maybe it was more than $100,000 per household, but my point stands, right? Like, nobody who's buying this car doesn't make a decent salary, right? A brand new car, I've never owned a brand new car, right? So, like, just to think that someone's buying a brand new car, I would think that you make decent money at least. And then again, the $100,000 a year, $40,000 for the car price, as you peel back the layers of the onion, it doesn't make sense. So what was the revised proposal for this? So the revised proposal said that the bill would have, so it would say individual taxpayers must have an adjusted gross income of no more than $400,000 to get the new EV tax credit. It would limit the EV credit to cars priced at no more than $55,000, while trucks could be picked up to $74,000. So interesting that it says individual taxpayers at $400,000. How do we go from 100 to 400? I mean, surely you could have said 200, right? An individual making $200,000 really does not need that tax credit. So that's a huge jump. I mean, this tells me that people are just so disconnected with what $100,000 really is, right? That's a lot of money. And to go from 1 to 400, like 400,000, that's like the 1% of Americans making 400,000 a year. So I don't think they need this tax credit, but that's neither here nor there. What's more interesting are the limits here. So no more than $55,000 for a sedan and no more than $74,000 for a truck. So what's interesting here is, again, I don't think they're thinking about what they're doing, because at those prices, first of all, no truck right now, no EV truck made or proposed would fall within that $74,000 budget. So, I mean, the Lightning won't, especially if you get it the way you want to get it, right? Unless you just want the Ford Lightning with cloth seats and no touchscreen, then you're not going to be able to get that credit. The only vehicle that would is the Cybertruck. Tesla wins. Now, what about sedans? Okay, you could get the Mach-E, so Mach-E would fall under that. You could get the Chevy Bolt, which aren't being made now because, well, they all got recalled because of those batteries catching on fire, so they're not making them anymore. So you can get Tesla, though. Okay, so I guess Tesla wins on that front again. So it's interesting what's happening here. There's a lot of back and forth. We got all the union drama. We've got all the drama with, the White House and, the transportation secretary and Joe Biden and, Congress trying to set limits for these things. But you know what you should really take away from all of this? At the end of the day, Tesla makes out no matter what. No matter what they do. Even if they made it so egregiously anti-Tesla, guess what? Nobody else can make the vehicles. Only Tesla can. Only Tesla has the volume. Tesla is about to add a potential extra 2 to 4 million production ability come October. Giga Austin, Giga Berlin. Only Tesla has the volume. Only Tesla has the battery expertise and volume and know-how. No one else. Only Tesla can avoid shutting down their factories, which if you look around, Ford, GM, Stellantis, NIO, Xpeng, Lucid is behind. Everybody is shutting down factories because there's a chip shortage. Is Tesla doing that? No. What does Tesla do? Tesla has rewritten over 19 different microcontroller chips. They've rewritten and recreated different firmware for them so that they can have a loophole, a bypass from this chip shortage. They're rewriting firmware. They're innovating during this crisis of a chip shortage that's shutting down everyone else's factories. No matter what you do, no matter what laws you pass, no matter what incentives you give other people, which is just going to be a crutch and hinder them, delay their innovation, no matter what you do, you're not going to slow down a company like Tesla. You know why? Because their prime focus is to innovate and iterate, and to delete parts, and to delete processes, and to avoid red tape. This is a cultural thing. This is a DNA thing. And it's not something you can recreate no matter how much you give in a budget or in a credit. You can't recreate it. So as a Tesla investor, as a EV enthusiast, as a person who wants to see the world move into a more renewable, sustainable, cleaner air world, I think it's all going to be fine at the end of the day. No matter what they come out with, no matter what they pass, I think Tesla will still be a net winner. I think the environment will be a net winner, and we'll all be in a better place because of it. All right, so this was the Tesla tea for today. If you guys like what you saw here, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. It really helps us out, helps support the channel, helps get this information out to more people. All right, I love you all. Thank you for watching. Peace.